Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. People think betrayal happens in one shocking moment. A text message, a photo, a confession. But for me, it began quietly in the soft spaces of everyday life. It started with Lena coming home later and later, her perfume changing every week, her laughter no longer meant for me. I'd known her since college. Back then, she was the kind of woman who could make a room stop, sharp eyes, a quick wit, and that contagious laugh that drew people in. I was just an architecture intern, broke but hopeful, and she claimed to love that about me, that I was real. We built a life on long drives, late-night takeout, and dreams of owning a small lake house one day. For a while, we had it all. Love that felt easy, laughter that didn't need effort, and a quiet rhythm that felt safe. But somewhere between promotions and social media followers, Lena changed. She started wearing designer dresses to networking events, ones I was never invited to. Her phone, once left on the counter, was now locked tighter than a vault. When I'd reach for her hand at dinner, she'd flinch, just slightly, like my touch was a reminder of a version of her she'd outgrown. I kept telling myself it was stress, pressure from work, the new boss she couldn't stop mentioning. Evan this, Evan that. He's brilliant, she'd say. He just gets marketing. But the way her eyes softened when she said his name told me it wasn't about business. Still, I didn't confront her. I kept my patience, even when I found a second toothbrush in her gym bag, or when she suddenly started going to yoga retreats on weekends. I'd wake up to cold sheets and a silent house, telling myself that trust meant not checking her phone, not becoming the jealous husband she accused me of being. Until that night. It was our anniversary week, and she'd suggested we do something different, go to this trendy downtown bar where her coworkers were celebrating a new campaign launch. I took it as a sign of hope. Maybe she wanted to reconnect. Maybe she remembered who we were before the money and the lies. I ironed my only crisp shirt, polished my shoes, and walked in beside her, trying to ignore the way she kept texting under the table. The music was loud, the crowd buzzing, and for a few minutes, I almost let myself believe we were okay. Then she stood up. Her coworkers cheered as she grabbed the mic on stage. I smiled, thinking she was about to thank her team. But instead, she looked straight into the crowd, eyes glittering under the neon lights, and said with a smirk, "This song's for someone special, my real man. He knows who he is." Laughter roared through the bar. People whistled, clapping, some shouting names I didn't recognize. My stomach turned cold. She wasn't drunk. She knew exactly what she was doing, right there in front of me. But I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just watched her sway to the music, soaking in her moment like a queen on her stage. Then I stood up, walked over to the bar counter, slipped off my wedding ring, and placed it on the stage beside her heels. "Now," I said quietly, "you can sing all you want. You finally got your audience." The band kept playing. The crowd didn't even notice I'd left. By the time she finished her song, I was already gone, and she had no idea her life was about to collapse piece by piece. I didn't drive home that night. I just drove, miles out of the city, headlights slicing through the dark Tennessee back roads. I parked near an old gas station and sat in silence, staring at the ring-shaped mark on my finger. It felt strange, that small patch of skin suddenly free, like my body already knew I was done carrying her weight. But pain has a way of sharpening you. It burns off the softness you once mistook for love. By morning, I made my decision. No yelling, no begging, no revenge born from rage. I was going to end this the same way she started it, quietly, with precision. When I finally returned home, Lena wasn't there. The house reeked of her perfume and someone else's cologne. On the counter sat a half-empty wine glass beside a folded note. "You left early. We need to talk." I smiled. "Oh, we will." That weekend, I began gathering everything I'd ignored: credit card statements, location history, receipts. Years in construction had taught me one thing: structure never lies. I traced her patterns like blueprints. Friday yoga retreats that matched hotel bookings. Uber rides to the same downtown address. Purchases of expensive cologne that I'd never worn. The pieces fit together too easily. And at the center of it all was the same name, Evan. Her boss. I remember the first time she'd mentioned him. How her voice carried admiration, maybe even awe. "He's so driven, Ty," she'd said. "He believes in me." I'd brushed it off then, thinking she just needed validation. But now, it made me sick. Still, I didn't confront her. Instead, I did something colder. I took time off work and quietly transferred everything I owned, the house deed, my truck, my savings, into a separate account under my sister's name. I canceled our joint cards. Even the insurance she depended on went under review. She'd built her castle on my foundation, and I was about to pull out every brick. Sunday night, she finally came home, hair still damp from a hotel shower, smelling like someone else's soap. "Tyler," she said cautiously, dropping her purse. "We need to talk." I leaned back on the couch, pretending to be calm. "About your concert?" Her jaw tightened. "Don't be dramatic. It was a joke. You left before I could explain." "A joke," I repeated. "You called another man your real man in front of 50 people. She sighed like I was a child. "You're overreacting. You've been distant for months. You barely even try anymore." "Evan." She froze mid-sentence, realizing the name had slipped. I didn't flinch. I just looked her dead in the eyes and said softly, "Go on." "Evan what?" Her silence told me everything. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and said, "You'll find the house papers gone. The joint cards too. Don't worry. You'll still have your music career." I nodded toward the living room speaker, where her karaoke video from the bar was already posted online. Her face drained of color. "You didn't." "Oh, I did," I said. "It's trending with the caption, 'When your wife serenades her boss at your anniversary party.' The internet moves fast. Enjoy your fame." She lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. "Tyler, please. Save it." I cut her off. "You've got your spotlight. Don't act shy now." She started crying, but the sound barely reached me. Somewhere deep down, a part of me still loved her, or maybe I loved the memory of who she was. But that version was long gone, buried under layers of vanity and betrayal. I walked out without slamming the door. That was the point. Calm, controlled, finished. Over the next few days, everything unraveled for her. The company launched an internal review after that video went viral. Evan's wife, yes, he was married, filed for divorce and sent screenshots of hotel bookings to Lena's office. By Wednesday, she'd lost her job, her reputation, and the man she'd risked everything for. She tried calling. 56 missed calls, 31 voicemails. All the same words. "Please, I made a mistake. Tyler, talk to me." I didn't mean it, but I never answered. Instead, I focused on the one thing she'd always mocked, my simple dreams. I took the savings she didn't know I'd hidden and bought a small piece of land by the lake. The same one we used to talk about when we were young and broke. Only now, it was mine alone. I rebuilt my life brick by brick, day by day, in quiet peace. I stopped checking my phone. I started sleeping again. A week later, she showed up at the construction site, pale, disheveled, holding back tears. "Ty," she whispered. "He blocked me. Evan, he left. I have nothing." I didn't look up from my work. "Guess now you know how it feels," I said calmly. She took a shaky step forward. "Can we at least talk?" I finally met her eyes, saw the wreck of the woman I once knew, and felt nothing. "There's nothing left to say, Lena. You burned everything yourself. I'm just the ashes you left behind." She stood there a moment, trembling, then turned and walked away. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the one being left. Days turned into weeks, and the silence between us became permanent. Her calls eventually stopped. Her number disappeared from my phone history. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about her. Not with love, not even with anger, just with that strange ache that comes after a storm, when you're still standing but everything familiar is gone. The guys at the construction site noticed I was quieter. My foreman Mark asked one day, "You good, Ty?" I just nodded and kept hammering nails into the frame. Because how do you explain losing someone who's still alive but already a ghost? I threw myself into work, 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. The ache in my shoulders replaced the ache in my chest. At night, I'd sit by the half-built cabin by the lake, drinking coffee instead of whiskey, listening to crickets and trying to picture a future where peace didn't feel like punishment. But peace doesn't come easy when you've been humiliated. There's a difference between moving on and letting someone walk away untouched. And I wasn't done. Not yet. One evening, while reviewing project invoices, I received an email from Lena's former coworker. The subject line read, "You might want to see this." Inside were screenshots, proof that Lena had tried to pin the viral scandal on me, claiming I had leaked her video to sabotage her career. So, she still hadn't learned. I didn't reply. Instead, I made a quiet phone call to a friend I'd known since college, Miles, a reporter at a local business magazine. I told him everything. The affair, the public humiliation, her attempt to shift blame. He didn't need much convincing. The story was too good. 2 weeks later, an article titled, "Marketing Executive Blames Husband After Affair Scandal, But Receipts Tell Another Story," hit the front page of the Nashville Business Times. It wasn't cruel. It was factual. Every detail backed with proof. Her texts, her receipts, her bar performance. The article went viral within hours. People started commenting things like he handled it with class, and she embarrassed herself, not him. For the first time, I wasn't the fool in someone else's story. But revenge, real revenge, doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it just leaves quietly after cleaning up what's left. A few days later, I was back at the lake house, finishing the roof when a familiar car rolled down the gravel road. A silver sedan, hers. I sighed, set my hammer down, and waited. She stepped out slowly, dressed simply, her makeup gone, her hair tied back. For once, she looked human. No armor, no arrogance. "Tyler," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Please just hear me out." I didn't answer, just leaned against the post and crossed my arms. She took a step closer. "I lost everything. My job, my apartment, my friends. I've been staying with my cousin, and I can't stop thinking about what I did to you." Her voice cracked. I was stupid. I thought I wanted excitement. I thought he cared. But when everything fell apart, the only name I wanted to call was yours. For a second, I almost pitied her. But pity wasn't love. "You made me feel small, Lena," I said quietly. "Every day, you chipped away at me until I stopped recognizing myself. You didn't just cheat. You laughed while you did it." Tears streamed down her face. "I know. I hate myself for it. I wish I could take it back." "You can't," I said simply. "But you can learn from it." She hesitated. "So that's it. You're just done with me." I nodded slowly. "I was done the moment you picked up that mic." She looked at the house behind me, the one I'd been building alone. "You actually built it," she whispered. "The lake house. You used to say it would be ours." I smiled faintly. "It still will be, just not yours and mine." Her face fell. "Someone else." I shook my head. "Just me. That's the point. I spent years building everything around you. Now, I'm building something for myself." The wind rustled through the trees as silence stretched between us. For the first time, she didn't argue. She just nodded, wiped her tears, and turned back to her car. "Goodbye, Tyler," she whispered. "Goodbye, Lena." When her car disappeared down the road, I stood there for a while, staring at the empty space she left behind. And surprisingly, I felt lighter. Not triumphant, not bitter, just free. That night, I sat on the porch with a cup of black coffee and watched the sun sink into the lake. The world was quiet again, the kind of quiet that feels earned. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through her old messages one last time before deleting them all. Then, as if fate wanted to give the story one final twist, I saw a headline trending on social media. Ex-marketing director hired by Rural Youth Center for volunteer program. She'd taken a job teaching design to teenagers, free of charge. No spotlight, no champagne, just rebuilding herself the same way I had. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel anger when I read her name. Just closure. Maybe pain can burn a bridge, but sometimes it also lights the path away from it. I leaned back, looked at the stars, and smiled. For once, I wasn't anyone's fool, anyone's husband, anyone's backup plan. I was just a man who walked away when it mattered most and didn't look back. It's strange how quiet life becomes after chaos. There's no shouting, no ringing phone, no broken glass of emotions flying around. Just stillness. The kind that lets you hear your own heartbeat and, for the first time, feel proud of it. Months had passed since the night I walked out of that bar. I'd finished the lake house. Every nail, every board, Every inch of it held a piece of the man I used to be, and the one I'd become since. It wasn't fancy. It didn't need to be. The porch faced the water. The mornings smelled like coffee and pine, and the evenings felt like forgiveness. Sometimes, while sanding the deck, I'd think about how easily love can turn into poison when pride gets involved. Lena wasn't born cruel. She just lost herself in the noise and wanted to feel admired, important, envied. I'd loved her through all of that, but love without respect is like building a house on sand. It looks strong until the first storm hits. One late afternoon, I got a call from Mark. "Hey man," he said, "we're doing a small gathering at the bar next weekend. You know, the same one. Come by. It's been months. Time to get out of your cave." I almost said no. That place still carried ghosts. But something inside me whispered it was time. Time to stop avoiding the world. So I went. When I walked in, the place looked different. The neon signs were still there, but the laughter didn't sting anymore. People nodded, clapped my shoulder, even strangers recognizing me from that viral story. It had turned into a cautionary tale, not a betrayal, but of quiet strength. Halfway through the evening, as the live band played, a familiar voice drifted through the noise. I turned, and there she was, Lena. She wasn't dressed in sparkles this time. No heels, no heavy makeup. Just jeans, a soft sweater, and a look of humility I'd never seen before. She froze when she saw me, but didn't turn away. Instead, she walked up slowly. "Hey," she said gently. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Same," I replied, setting my drink down. "I've been volunteering," she said after a pause. "Working with kids. It's different. They don't care about status or who drives what. They just care if you show up." I nodded. "Sound good for you?" She hesitated. "I'm sorry, Tyler. Truly. For everything. For the things I said. For how I made you feel small." Her voice trembled, and for the first time, I knew it wasn't a performance. She'd been broken too, just in a different way. "I know," I said simply. "And I forgive you." The words surprised even me. I hadn't planned to say them, but they came naturally, not to bring her back, but to finally release what was left of the hurt. Tears welled in her eyes. "You don't have to." "I do," I interrupted softly, because holding on to anger is like trying to rebuild a house from the ashes. It just leaves you covered in soot. We stood there for a moment, the hum of the bar fading into the background. She smiled weakly. "You look happy." "I am," I said. "Finally." She nodded and turned to leave, but before she did, she looked back once more. "You were always the better one, Ty. I just didn't see it." I didn't answer. She didn't need me to. Some lessons are meant to linger in silence. After she left, I stayed a little longer. The band switched to a slow tune, not romantic, just soulful. And for a strange, full-circle moment, the bartender asked if anyone wanted to dedicate a song. The crowd looked around expectantly, and someone nudged me jokingly. "Come on, man," Mark said. "Your turn to grab the mic." I laughed but stood anyway. When I stepped up, the same stage lights that once burned humiliation into my memory now felt softer, warmer. I cleared my throat, glanced at the crowd, and said with a small smile, "This one's for anyone who's ever been made to feel less," and found out later they were more than enough all along. No names, no bitterness, just truth. The music started, gentle and steady. I didn't sing well, but I didn't care. People clapped along, some even raised their glasses. The air felt lighter, like that chapter of my life had finally shut, not with anger, but with peace. When the song ended, I stepped down, and the bartender smiled. "Didn't think we'd ever see you back here, man. Guess I just needed to face the ghosts," I said. That night, as I drove back to the lake, the road shimmered with the reflection of city lights fading behind me. I rolled the windows down, let the wind fill the cab, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom that didn't come from revenge, but from release. At home, I lit a single lamp by the window. The house smelled faintly of cedar and fresh paint. I poured myself a drink, just one, and stood on the porch, watching the still water catch the moonlight. For the first time since everything fell apart, I whispered a quiet thank you. Not to her, but to life itself. Because sometimes losing someone isn't the end of your story. It's just the plot twist that helps you find yourself again. And as the night deepened, I finally took off the last thing that tied me to the past. the small gold band I'd worn around my neck for months. I opened my hand, let it fall into the lake, and watched it sink until it vanished completely. No grand finale. No applause. Just peace. The kind that comes when the pain is gone, the lesson is learned, and the story is finally yours again.